Please have a look. Has it gone online?
Yes, it has.
Good afternoon, everybody. Is it afternoon? It's morning.
Yes.
It's afternoon. We are
Well,
at the
absolutely. Right
okay.
in the noon.
So, namaste, everybody. This is Dr.
Namaskar.
I'm bringing in today again Dr. Archana Kumar, who's going to be talking to us about chapter 6, where she's going to be talking to us about Bhagavad Gita, and she's going to be talking to us about Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So, let's go over to Dr. Archana Kumar. Thank you, Dr. Archana.
Namaskar, everyone. Okay. Now, before we start this chapter, uh, let us just update ourselves to what we did last because we are proceeding further on that. First of all, last I remember discussing about the Panch Mahabhut and the fact and the story of I think Alexander the Great that we talked about, and how he was asked to get a the holy water of Ganges, and the Bhagavad Gita by his mother. Now here we had talked before this. We had talked about Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, and Ahankar, the five guests who had come to a particular person's house. I'm repeating the names of the guest: lust, anger, attachment, greed, and ego. Whenever any action is performed under the influence of any one of these vices, it can be any of them. The grade of the vice, the degree of the vice can also vary, and having all of them is also possible, and having just one of them is also possible. And again, Bhagavad Gita is teaching us the path to attain a life where probably a person would have none of them also. Here we had already discussed about karam, akarm, and vikarm. Following it further, we got to the discussion of understanding that when the body is lying, when we say a person is dead, or we say Arathi is lying, we have spoken about it. I'll just remind and brush you up on it. Arathi again means a plus Rathi. A is the body, the Panch Mahabhut, the five elements which make the body. And Rathi is the autonomic force, the power, the supreme, which is running the Rath, the chariot of life, the force, the energy behind all the activities of, I remember talking about seeing, smelling, hearing, taste, speech, touch, all of them. All these actions that we are doing and perceiving them is because we have the Rathi, the autonomic force, the supreme force inside the Panch Mahabhut. And when the Rathi, the Atma, the autonomic force decides to leave the body, is the state of death, where we see that the Panch Mahabhut are still present in the body, but the energy, the power which is running them goes amiss. Okay. Now, here, when we are talking about Krishna consciousness, the Panch Mahabhut, the autonomic energy, there are many ways to attain the particular position which we say the liberation, the knowledge of the Supreme. Now, this Supreme, there, we've been talking about so many ways of going through the five vices, learning through controlling of our action, doing our actions without expectation of the results, trying and understanding Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, which we've talked about. So they are all different ways which are leading Arjun to understand that the war that he is standing on the grounds of Kurukshetra and doing it is absolutely just and has to be done as his duty, as his karma, as his action. Now, here again, Sri Krishna is telling us that to attain the supreme liberation or attain the ultimate goal of a human being that is there, that is achieving the liberation from the action of birth and rebirth, what we call is 84 lakh yoniyon ka chakra. That means that the soul has a repetition of births and rebirths. And even we know, we have understood when we get in touch with other people who are Akashic readers or other knowledgeable ones, they tell us that the soul does travel into many, many different births and realms. Now, here, Sri Krishna is actually telling us that we can go through Karam Kand. I'll repeat all this in English. Or we can go through Bhakti Yoga, or we can go through Tattva Gyan or Gyan Yoga. Now, this means that attaining that liberation of Supreme can be done in many, many ways, right? Now, Karam Kand is there a way. Karam is action, Kand is the work that we do. There are ways that people do charity. You know, they take care of others, they look after the elder people, they look after people who are weak. And these Karam Kands can be just one way of attaining the Supreme. That means that we are guided. There are around 80,000 shloks in our mythologies, and those shloks are hymns which tell us the many, many different forms of performing activity or work or actions to attain the supreme power or liberation from this round wheel of, birth and rebirth. That is one way. The other is the Bhakti Yoga or the Bhakti Kand, where there are around 16,000 shloks given in our books, which are telling, like I remember talking to you, a very simple way of attaining bhakti in Kali Yuga is just chanting the holy names. That even just chanting the holy names have the power of purifying your soul, of cleansing the five senses of their different vices, of the lust, of the gratification that they go through. And that is just another way of attaining the supreme liberation. That is again, which we in Gita call as Krishna consciousness. The other one is the Gyan Yoga or the Tattva Yoga, which has a description of around 4,000 shloks in our books. Please understand that the the word yoga itself, or yoga it is basically the process of linking oneself with the supreme. Now these are the different various pathways to achieve that. This all is given in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where the shloks, I think shlok number 4, 5, 6 are describing all of them. All right. Now, here, particularly, I will be talking about something that is regarding Ashtang Yoga. Now, Ashtang Yoga is a part in Bhagavad Gita given to us, as I've mentioned, is the way that oneself can link himself to the Supreme. Ashtang Yoga was given to us by the Saint Patanjali. See, these days when we are doing all the asanas, when we are doing all the exercises, now they are a way of just doing exercises. We call them yoga, yes, but according to Gita, yoga is not just doing those physical exercises, they are exercises. They are definitely yoga, but they are just the physical exercises. जिसे हम, which we in Hindi called vyayam, exercise or vyayam. All right. Yoga is much above that. Yoga has the capability and capacity of you to attain the control over your breath. Yoga has the capability of linking you to the supreme power. Please understand in this, there, when we are talking about the different yogas, Gyan Yoga is the most supreme, the Karma Yoga is the most supreme, where Arjun was told by Shri Krishna that Gyan you have to attain. Gyan is knowledge. Until unless you understand the knowledge, the difference between a small eye, the big eye, the existence of your in this life is because that atma, that tattva, that energy, that autonomic force is there in you. Only then you survive and you live. And when you live, through your knowledge you attain knowledge of weapons, education, science, and other things that we learn. That is gyan. But the most supreme of Gyan again is understanding the transcendental form, where we are understanding the energy, where we are understanding everything else regarding the knowledge of the world and the universe. All right. That is what Sri Krishna is telling him. Now, besides that Gyan, it is Bhakti. That is just another pathway of learning and achieving liberation. So Gyan, Bhakti, and Karma.
Archana,
Now, yes,
why is liberation so important?
why is liberation so important is because whenever we are taking birth, whether it is an ant, an elephant, a tortoise, a fish, every uh, living being has the Atma or the energy or the autonomic force in it. Now, when we are leading through different yonis or these different lifestyles that we live and attain the life of a human being, that is where we have the energy of, we have the strength of learning, knowledge, and understanding. Okay. Now, this is the only birth where we can understand the purpose of our life. Now, purpose of our life is not just to take birth, have kids, and die. See, that's what all the yonis are doing. The animals and insects and all of them. They take birth, they live their life, they mature, have sex, have the next generation, procreate, and perish.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
a question here, which is a difficult one.
Okay.
Though that's not the only thing. And this is a very valid question because my son asked me this. Why is marriage so important? Why
Okay.
is my daughter says, why is marriage so important? Uh, what I'm beginning to understand is that we as a society have actually given making children uh, the grasthashram, as we call
Yes. Yes.
it, the basically where the man is in the family mode,
Hmm.
important. Whereas actually, if we look at it, animals don't think about it. They do get into it, but it's not a compulsion. But we human beings are so amazing. With animals, we take them away from Grast Ashram. We actually neutralize them, and we make sure that they don't make babies because it's a headache for us. Because especially the pet dogs,
Hmm.
the dogs on the street, you find them within first year of their birth, they have already had a litter and they are on their own
Yeah.
and they probably never have cancer or cysts or whatever. But
Hmm.
the pets which are at home, it's an often discussion that, oh, should we let the animal procreate or not? On the other
Hmm.
hand, with the human being, we've made it very compulsory that the first few years you'll do gyan, that means you'll take knowledge. Then you'll get into family mode where you will make children. Then again, you will have to be in devotion, that's with bhakti, into your family. And then again, you will bring gyan because you'll be teaching your kids. Somewhere, we haven't we've compartmentalized our lives so much. We haven't really given a free, and then we are talking about freedom and moksha, and we haven't even got out of the cycle of, from the birth to do the same things, repeating the
Hmm.
things. And here we are talking about, how do you say, freedom from birth and rebirth. But
Yeah.
and that's where my confusion is, that what's all this about?
Okay. See, Anu, they're very different things. The concept of the Indian society, when it was divided into the four sections, where Vanprasth was the ultimate, Grahast before that, and I think it was the Shikshak 25 initial years when you are learning the education, the married time, the Vanprasth, and then the Samadhi, of course, the four of them. Okay. Now, here I remember you asking me a question a few days ago where this particular businessman or the father was into business and the son joined, and the father would never leave his seat. And I remember telling you that this is exactly what we learn, and it is the same here. Now, I'll give a very small example. There was this particular person who meditated a lot, worshipped the demigods, and he attained a boon that he could go to a particular tree. He wanted to have the longevity of life so that he could die whenever he wanted, like Bhishma Pitama. And he said, I want that. I mean, I want to live for a very long, healthy, long time. So he prayed, he received the boon, and he said he was told that there's this particular tree and he should go there, just pick a fruit and eat, and he shall live for as long as he wanted. So when he went to the tree, he saw that there were so many people there who were fighting and arguing, and it was an utter chaos. So he just caught hold of somebody and he asked, what is happening? So that person said, see, understand that we all were given the boon, we all ate the fruit. So he said, yeah, I've also come to have the fruit. So they said, don't have it. She was like, why? Why shouldn't I have it? I want to live for a long time. I want to see my whole family and the generations and generations to come. We all have that desire somewhere. So they said, see, now this particular person pointed out to three elderly, very aged gentlemen. Okay. And they were like quarreling over property, over business, over rights. Or, one would say, I am your father, and the other would say, I am your great grandfather, and they all are living. So they don't want to leave their thrones, their places, or their positions. Now, if they do not die, how will the new coming up generations, bloom, or how will they be successful? So he was told by those learned people that please don't eat this fruit of longevity. This is what is happening in my family. In all these people, the chaos that you're saying, this is exactly what is happening. So, by the rule of nature, only when the old goes, the new takes over. It is there even in plants and trees. Only when the old leaves fall during the season of fall, and by spring, the new leaves and the buds and the new stems come up. And by spring end, the tree is flourishing again. Similarly, it is with human beings. Until and unless the old go, the new can never learn. Until and unless all those new scientists and knowledgeable people were given chances to experiment and provide us with their new experiments and their success in life, we couldn't be talking on Zoom like this. Or any scientific, development that has happened all over the world. We are connecting all over the world with everybody on Zoom or any of these links. Isn't that a miracle? If you tell a caveman, today you're sitting here in the cave, but I can make sure that that ancestor of yours sitting in US somewhere in another cave, I can make you connect, he'll go berserk. But today we learn that. Now, similarly, that is the whole thing. Now, talking about this is the reason why we have the concept of birth and death. Only then, we can have. Now, just imagine my grandfather created this house and all those generations are still living. Is it possible the earth would, become a small place for all of us to live? And imagine the same situation with all the animals. There's so many of them, all the birds, all the amphibians, all everything living. If they would not perish, where would we get all that space to live in?
Absolutely. I would like to share over here with
Yeah.
my screen something very interesting.
Okay.
So, can you see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to just write this. So, that's the spelling of body. If I turn it around, that becomes our body has got date of birth with year put
Yeah.
over there when it comes down on this planet Earth.
Yeah.
So, when you are born, your date of exit is already decided.
Of course it is.
At how the body has got date of birth and year
Yeah.
connected with,
Yeah.
and
That.
each even if you go in the history, there are dates connected with people. He came then and he left then.
Yeah.
Minister came then, left then.
Yes.
But that gets me again intrigued,
Okay.
and that is, we are such fussy people that till we did not exit the planet Earth, we weren't going to exit our greed, our attachment, our anger, our ego, and our lusts. We would want to be there forever, ever, and ever.
Yes, Anu. And I'll give a very funny example. We all believe, like we were talking about Karam Kand. It was just, it just came to me that when we do something that we call dan or charity, all right, you would see that in a particular temple, a particular bench would have somebody's name written. The fan would have somebody's name written. That even if I do not exist in the physical Panchabhut, the dan that I've done, the charity that I've done will take my name the long way. And whereas, again, in Christian consciousness, this is very clearly and beautifully given. दान करो एक हाथ से दूजे को ना हो खबर. That means that if you are doing charity with your right hand, if you are giving anything with to somebody with your right hand, your even left hand should not know of it. It should be done so silently,
You know,
without creating. Yeah.
Archana, we actually, whether we like it or not, before we leave the planet Earth, we give away everything, including the body that came here.
Anu, we do not. Where do we give anything? Tell me.
It is not by free will. It anyway goes back to the earth. It
It
anyway
does. It does. Even if you do not give it physically to anybody.
think we are doing a big deed.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying.
Times and I say कि अगर लोगों को इजाजत होती तो वो अपने सिर की जू भी किसी को उठा के नहीं देते.
अरे कोई अपना जुकाम ना दे किसी को. Nobody will even give his cold to anybody. It is just by virtue that it is a bloody virus which goes from X to Y.
And right now, when it's so freely passing the virus from one person to another,
Yes.
people don't know what to do. This is like,
People just don't know.
and nobody wants it.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say here is that we are such meanies. We are
We
such
are. We
people
are.
that we can't even give an insect walking in our hair to someone, because
No.
even if we give that, we will say we did a big deal.
Anu, we make such a big deal about everything. Like you were just mentioning, that is marriage compulsory?
Why?
Marriage, it is such a beautiful thing. Marriage was never compulsory. Even during caveman, marriage was not the point. But because there were so many incidents which happened, which were unacceptable, brutal, I mean, which shook the basic humanity. And because probably, the concept of one lady being with many was not tolerable to the mankind. That is what, because God never made marriage, Krishna never said marry. And do you know, by virtue of, if I sit and talk about Lord Krishna, you won't believe it, he was one god who had 16,000 queens who he married to for some other reason. There's a particular history behind it. And besides that, he had Radha, he had Rukmini, he had Satyabhama, and Jamvanti, four of the wives which stayed with him in the palace. Now, here, when we are talking about marriage, Krishna never said that it was the kind of marriage that we believe in today. It was a sakha bhav, a friendship before that marriage. It is such a beautiful thing that comes out, that marriage is not just sexual to procreate. Marriage can be a very beautiful feeling where two people stay together, love each other unconditionally. And I mean, I'm just deviating. In today's marriage, where is that unconditional love? You do this for me, I love and respect you. The minute you don't provide this for me, all that goes down the drain. Where is it? Yeah.
The biggest one that I see is that when parents are bringing up their children,
Yeah.
they often have this in their head. If I'm not there, who will take care of my child? Either in the form of worry or in the form of curse. And then the children have this: if our parents are not there, who will provide for us?
Anu, that is why they say,
Or will we move ahead?
that आपने अपना योगक्षेम छोड़ा ही नहीं है. The person who has the power and energy, just remember, I'll share a very small thing. We all got pregnant. We had good time. We got pregnant. But when we got pregnant, did we know we had conceived? No, we didn't know. It took a cycle or two to understand that, okay, we are pregnant. Now, that energy, that power, that supreme, which had the capability of making us conceive, who has the capability, जिसे कहते हैं, I'll translate in English, अंधी कोठरी में गढ़ा जिसने. That means it's a black, dark cave where things are getting created in the womb. The womb is dark. It is a dark place where the beautiful embryo is growing. Okay. Andi Kotri, that means in that dark cave, that energy which made sure that you were conceived, which made sure that you grew. It knew where exactly the eyes should come, nose to come, mouth to come, hands to come. Everything fell in place. The minute we leave ourselves completely under that energy, we actually give their energy the right to make sure that our pregnancy goes normal, we grow normal from here, mind and physical body. And that is what, when we do not have the samarpan on that supreme energy, that it was capable of taking care of us in the womb, it is promised us that I will make sure that you get 2 square meals a day. It is the gods, the supreme energies, Krishna consciousness, or that energies promise to a human being that you do what your duty is there on the earth, and it is my promise to you that you shall not sleep empty stomach. But we always become me, I. If I do not do it, my children will, I've heard so many times mother telling, मैं खाना नहीं बनाऊंगी ना, रोटी नहीं मिलनी तुम्हें. That means that if I do not cook, you're going to go hungry. No. If you do not cook, they're going to go and make Maggie and eat. They're going to eat bread and butter. They might not get the proper 4 square meal, agreed, but they will not go empty stomach. That is the
So
uh,
whole
devotion.
of getting marriage into place was that the woman should have a man to protect her, and the man will have a woman to nourish him. Now, what's really interesting again, the man says to the woman, if I'm not there, what will happen to you? And the woman is saying, if I'm not there, what will happen to you?
Anu, that is because we in today's world are not capable, because probably again of the five things that I keep repeating: Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, Ahankar. That means the lust, the anger, the attachment, the greed, or even the ego. Because of all of them, or because of one of them, we are not learning to create or respect the feminine and the masculine energies. We are just stuck in the male and the female of the body. That is what Krishna is liberating us, that we have to learn. There are times in Gita where Krishna is mentioning that his Shakti, his energy, his power is coming from Radha. Now, what does that mean? That a man is not capable of fighting all the wars by himself. There are times that he would require that kind of energy to fight the war. Similarly, the feminine energy. Here I'll come down to this basic. There are times when we see the form of Ardhanareshwar. Ardhanareshwar is the form of demigods where we see half male and half female energies combined and joined to become one. All right. There's a very beautiful sentence here which I would like to share with everybody. It says, ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश का होता नाश है पर मेरा ना होता नाश है. That means Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the person who's taking care of procreating and looking after everything,
Preserve.
and Mahesh, yeah, preserver, and Mahesh is the one who is responsible for the destruction, death, and the end of everything. All right. Now they are all demigods. Now the person who is saying that all the demigods shall perish, but I shall still thrive, I will still exist. What is that? That is the supreme energy, that they all will perish and I will still survive. Our problem is that we never rise above all this. We do not understand that we are all basically energy beings. We are stuck in the physical thing. She's a male, she's a female, I am a male, I am dominating. The lady thinks she's dominating. If she doesn't provide, how will the family eat? There's so many families where the ladies, the mother dies giving birth to the child. Do you think those children, they don't grow? The family doesn't live. Okay, it does not live a very beautiful life. If it lives a very dissociated life, it lives a very difficult life, agreed, but they still live. They do not die with the mother. Similarly, when the provider of the family starts saying that you are eating because I am earning, in those families it has been seen many a times that for some reason, if the male partner goes away, the female is capable of raising the children, providing for them, earning, and even monetarily taking care of them. So please understand that it is today's misconception, the education and everything is taking the crux away, that everything is important, everybody is important. Both the energies are required to survive even in today's time, especially like in Corona, when we all had the pleasure of not getting our helpers at home. Do you think only the lady did the household work and managed everything? No, I think every member of the family did their contribution: male, female, children, grandparents. Everybody did their iota bit, and the whole day would be managed. Somebody did more of it, somebody did less of it. And it is only that they could sit on the dining table in the evening and eat together happily only when any of those energies did not get ahankar or ego and put forth, that only if I did not do, you would have not got the food today.
No, or there was enough of this that, oh, you made me a servant.
Yeah, even that came up. But that again is because that the persons did not realize that it is a collective thing. Similarly, our lives are a collective program. That is how we are designed.
You know,
When we are getting individualistic again and again in our temperaments, we have more problems.
in India, we still have, and this is to just put a disclaimer here, in India, we still are gifted so far, or it's a curse, I don't know which of the two, that we still have people to help you at home for homework, for domestic help. But
Anu, that I like, even outside here, we have plentiful help available. I was just speaking with my sister who's just shifted to Canada. So she was mentioning that even there are people who provide with cleaning help and
no, no,
cleaning
no,
the
I'm not,
house.
people are not there. Like that, people are
No,
there.
no, no, no. I'm just saying that here we are so blessed
It's not
that,
the kind of services that we get at the kind of money that we are paying is very disproportional. And when you see it outside the country, the
yeah.
kind of wages that anybody will come home and work is very different. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that is totally a professional thing. And yes, that part definitely is there, that the wages are according to an hourly charge of whatever they are working.
yes,
Absolutely. That is definitely there.
we in our land where somewhere we still haven't created the concept of treating a person who is taking care of us in a way that they can feel that they really, we don't really show our gratitude in that way. We have a lot of ifs and buts. That's another topic altogether. Just wanted to put a disclaimer there that when we're talking about maids not coming home, and that did happen during the last 7 months,
7 months, 8 months,
and
yes.
I think we had more gratitude for at that point for our people who were coming home. And yeah, it was quite interesting to watch people. Some paid their maids, some didn't pay their maids, some paid their drivers, some didn't pay it. You know, so a lot has happened, and let's not go there because that will be another topic altogether.
Yes, yes.
We will go back to the bhakti yoga. I distracted you, but for me, it was really important.
No, I hope I've clarified that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely, because uh, I didn't know that marriage wasn't considered as one of the most important aspects in Hindu story. I
Anu, see, marriage,
really,
because it becomes a very pious thing. Like when we marry a girl, I'll share this also for all the viewers also. We say a particular word which is called Kanya Dan. That means basically the parent of the girl is giving their daughter to the male partner as a dan, as a charity. And you know that to follow that, the parents of the girl would not even drink water from the house where the girl was married to. All right. They believe that if I have given something in charity to somebody, that means I am the giver and he is the receiver. And I do not receive anything from there, not even a glass of water. It was that pure a thing that marriage was considered. All right. That is a different thing, that because we are getting influenced by a lot of other things. And marriage, like a few days ago I was reading about the lava fera which Punjabis have. Okay. Now there are four feras that they do. They call it lava, and there are particular rules given in the Guru Granth Sahib.
tell people what is Fera.
Fera. Okay. Now, when when the Indian marriage occurs, there are a lot of ceremonies. Fera is just another very beautiful ceremony where the bride and groom, they are tied to each other through a cotton cloth, and there's a knot tied. The girl has a stole on her shoulder, and the groom is carrying another one, and they are both tied. That is called the joint or the gatbandhan. And then once that happens, they go taking the circle around the holy fire which is created. It's called yagna. And around that fire, when they take around 7 rounds in Hindus. In Punjabis, there's a concept of having 4 feras or 4 lavas. Now, in both these cases, there are particular set of chants or mantras which are said during every circle. And I was reading that, and it was so beautifully given that Guru Granth Sahib is giving. Guru Granth Sahib is the holy book of the Sikhs. All right, they have proper rules and sentences which are mentioned that the couple should follow in the grahast life, that the male partner shall do this. The female partner is responsible for this, how you should lead a disciplined life. Because nowhere did they say that you should live a life of abstinency. That was not the concept. The concept was be together, be disciplined, and how to procreate in a sensible, dutiful way. Have to have a society which learns the duties and learnings of our teachers, and then we follow it further. And this is all mentioned in that time when the lava is happening. The bride and groom are made to sit and listen to them. And the person who is making sure that the feras are done or the lavas are done, they clear this concept for the bride and groom, that now that till now you were individuals, you were X and you were Y, but today you are becoming XY together. It is not just you two getting married, it is two families uniting, two societies getting together, and how you shall learn to live in that society, and how beautifully you can create a you know compassionate, compatible, comfortable environment for yourself, your family, your elders, and these generations to come ahead. So
I've always fought with my mom and dad and said, you haven't given me as done.
okay.
You didn't ask me whether you were going to give me as done.
Yeah.
A daughter, I was your daughter, I will remain your daughter.
Hmm.
Somewhere the concepts when they started were very beautiful.
Hmm.
Somewhere across the time and space, they got manipulated so badly that they were used for suppression more than and aggression more than anything else.
Yeah. But yes.
But the real essence of it may be very, very beautiful, and I'm sure it is, like you're explaining.
Anu, it is such a beautiful thing, that respect, that the lady would get when she would go to the other family. I don't know, over a period of time, yes, I agree, things have changed, the concepts have changed, the understandings have changed. But it is a very beautiful, I mean, it's something like, imagine that when you give something as charity somewhere, we are a human being. I don't feel any difference that happened between me and my parents relationship after my marriage. Probably I think I got more emotionally bonded and stronger towards my parents. So dan was just another way to give my caretaking to somebody else. That from today my father is not responsible for, probably that was the time when the ladies were not earning, they were not working. They would just manage the house, basically. They would manage the house, they would manage the farm, they would manage the cattle, they would do a lot of works that was 100 folds more than what the male would do. But one thing that they would not do was get the money or earth in the house. Okay, so that was when it would happen that my daughter is fully capable of managing everything except for that earth. So, for that earth or that money or that kind of security or protection, I am giving it her to another man who would be her husband. It was just as simple as that. So that he becomes responsible to that girl, and he does not behave like a unmarried bachelor would. He has a responsibility to that lady, a kind of devotion, dedication also comes, becomes a part of that. Where probably, a bachelor can be as flirtatious or as must that you want to call, but once he's married, that means that you learn to have particular duties and way of living with that lady that you're getting married to. It was as simple as that. Dan is just another word to make it probably more pious, I think. I mean, that's what I think. I can definitely go through more about it and get back to you if you want to know.
Be lovely because I remember having fights over this. How can I be without, it's very interesting. Somebody gave my phone away to someone. This is a non, and doesn't have a,
Non living.
so I don't have to ask.
Hmm.
But did you ask me? Consent to marriage doesn't necessarily mean that people know that they will now be sent over to the other person, and parents will not even drink water because what you're saying got
No,
expressed in
that happened many years ago. Now things are
that
not the same.
marriage.
Things have changed.
No, no, they haven't. They haven't. Archana, they haven't. They haven't. I live
Okay.
5 minutes away from my mom.
Okay.
In last 7, 8 months, or
Hmm.
in last, I'm 50 odd years of age.
Okay.
She will not come to my house. She will not drink anything here. She will not eat
Oh,
anything here.
okay.
So when we say these are beautiful things, they don't feel like that.
No, I said it because from my own personal experience, wherever I'm staying, my parents stay around 40 kilometers away. And Anu, it's an absolute pleasure. At least twice a year, they come and stay in my house, and I ask them to come and they stay with me for a week, 10 days, how many days they want. They might compensate me by getting a gift or, giving me something. That's a different thing. But that is the pleasure that I'm still having. I go and stay with my parents, definitely, we all do, but having them over, I don't know, probably for a different reason they come, or their thought process is different. So that's what I share, that I experience that. And it's like once in summers I call them, and once in winters I call them, and they come over. We have a great time playing cards, yapping, eating food together, cooking, and the pleasure of having the elders at home.
That's
So
what I'm saying. Every house is so
it's different. Yeah, definitely.
for people audience. Punjab is just one province or one part of our country. The marriages happen very differently across India, right from south to
Oh,
north.
yes.
The feras remain intact though around the fire. Some marriages happen in the morning, some are in the middle of the night. It's all cultural. What the girl is given and what are the things that are given more importance to is also very cultural, guys. So I
Yes.
just want you all to know that there is no fixed rules. But in my experience, I actually had a lot of rage around.
Yeah.
Oh, how can you give me as a dhan?
As a charity. Yes, of course.
You didn't ask me.
Yeah. Not only that. Yeah, yeah. And because it hurts.
No, it hurts. Why don't you give yourself as a charity?
Or why don't you give my brother as a charity to somebody?
Why don't you give charity someone else? I mean, the bakra who's going to go get halal, because after that it was like, okay, we've given our daughter, now we can't hear. After that we've become deaf, we've become completely blind, and we will not see because now we've
Her away.
we've given this
As if as if it was a burden on our head and we've just passed the burden to somebody else.
somebody else. Now you can stretch it that far like how my mom stretched it. If I'm 5 minutes away from her,
I know, I know.
I want to be watching this, by the way, guys. I don't hide this from her, but it's like even today I feel I'm in the oral stage of everything, because like, how like small child is fed
Yeah.
food every time the child cries. So every time I probably cried and I was a little child, my mom probably put a bottle of milk in my mouth. Even today, if I ever complain, she sends food home.
I can understand. No, that is a pleasure having food from mom's hand. It's an absolute blessing. I miss it, Anu.
My
But again, yeah,
coming and sitting with me and having a cup
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that would be because I would not feel like a dan anymore
You
has
would,
not
yes, yes.
down.
That is one thing that I completely, agree and understand, because that pleasure of,
Minutes.
yeah,
She gets restless and she will walk out.
I can understand.
And that's so disheartening.
Because it doesn't gel with her thought process that she would be sitting, forget staying in your house,
Just,
even staying there for some time.
my God, oh my God. Like, that's like she'll probably stop eating, get her cashew nuts from home, that packet.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, beautiful people, I have a very beautiful mom. I just brought up this topic.
She's an amazing woman. I've had the pleasure of being with her for a few days.
Yeah. It's just to bring it up to you guys that this also happens even today. And some of the things which were said very beautifully in the granthas were then misconcocted, were then stretched a bit too far. It's like someone is wearing the clothes that were worn during the Bhagavad Gita time, the small choli and the dress, and still wearing it in this era. You cannot, you have to be with the time. And that's also something that we need to really urge and look at, because I don't think Krishna ever said get stuck in time.
Never. He was so progressive in his thought process himself, because he always said karma and action and change are part of living. If you do not change, it is something like if you breathe a breath, it goes in and it does not come out, or if it comes out and it does not go back inside. If that change of oxygen and carbon dioxide does not take place, if you do not do that action or karma, if that transformation change of breathing, basic I'm talking about, does not take place, that means you're dead. So just imagine that if things are not changing and you are not changing with time, see where you are stuck, see where you are, you know completely seized with the situation. That is what it means. And being progressive does not just mean anything that modernization is creating. Being progressive is accepting yourself the way you are, accepting the time that you are in. I am sure your mom or many ladies like her who have seen that time where the male would be working, earning, and running the house. And then today's time when there was just one landline, you would dial and you would book a trunk call if you really wanted to talk to somebody. They have seen that time and they are seeing today's time, the time when everybody has a mobile. The concept of mobile was not even in dreams at that time, and today it is a fact. It is there in our hands. We are living that time. All right. So if we are living this reality, we are accepting these changes, we need to rise above a lot of small things and accept those changes, and just to be happy and living in the situation that we are there today. Accept ourselves, accept everybody else with all their issues and everything, and see, you are going to be the happiest person on earth.
Absolutely. And I want everybody to know, though I did talk about my mom, and I'm happy I did, and I'm happy about what I spoke about. This is to address so many other people who might be going through the similar thing. She is a fantastic mom and she's a brilliant mom. But I was talking about how people get stuck in their little place.
Exactly.
And when you get stuck, it's like बहता पानी ही साफ कहलाए थम गया पानी ये जम गई काई. So the minute you stop moving, whether it's water or yourself, you're stuck. And when any process is stuck, it does not mean that life is going to go further. It means life has come to an end. And that is the reason why your heart beating consistently, constantly, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. So, beautiful people, we will ask Archana to conclude here for today. And Archana, over to you.
Okay, Anu, I'll just ask you one question. What for you would mean darkness? What is darkness for you?
That's a very brilliant question. For me, darkness would mean if I can't see ahead of time. not ahead of time, but if I can't see you right now, if there is so much of darkness that I can't see something, I'm a very visual person. If I can't see, I can't hold someone and give them my love. I can't speak to anyone and I'm locked up in a room or in a box. That would mean darkness for me.
Yeah. Somebody also said very beautifully that darkness is just the nothing, just the absence of light.
Yeah,
Any kind of light, any kind of, beautiful energies of light, vision, thought, action, anything. The minute that light is absent from your life, you are in a dark portion or a position. So let's light the lamps of thought, action, and words in our life and move. Even a small diya, a small candle, is capable of illuminating the whole dark room. Similarly, even one small positive thought is capable of enlightening ourselves.
absolutely, guys. And I remember a Pandit telling me, a learned man telling me, because my son used to be very, very unwell, extremely unwell. And I went to him and I was crying. I was crying because I was attached to that little baby. I wanted to see the baby happy. And somewhere, the child is always perceived as an extension. I perceived my child as an extension of me at that point. I was only 24. And seeing a child very unwell, I asked him, why is he suffering like this and what do I do? And he said something very beautifully, which would connect with what Archana has just spoken about. He told me, when the darkness at night comes in to your house, which means the dusk starts setting in, that's the time you're going to light a lamp in your house with an intention that his light and his vitality will always be high. And I did that, I don't know how many years of my life. In fact, even
Yes,
if there was a place where it was impossible for me to light a lamp, I lit a small candle over there or something over there which represented fire or
illumination,
represented.
energy, absolutely.
And that's exactly what you can do. If you're going through something really difficult in life right now, and darkness seems to be in, capturing and holding you all around, just put on a small diya or a light or a candle. Symbolically, think one right thought, and life will be different.
And Anu, only that looking at that candle at times gives you the happiness of that, brightness. It is so beautiful. And like Diwali has just gone, and that beauty of line of candles or diyas, they get that smile that however dark it is, even if it is the night of no moon, we have the capacity of illuminating our life.
Exactly as Archana said, even if you don't have your man in your life, your child in your life, your parent in your life, someone who was the light of your life is not there, yet you are the light in someone's life. So light yourself up so that they can see brightly and they can shine brightly because you decided to laugh today and smile and not be in that sadu sadu mode, which means not not sitting down with that frown
I
in
know.
your on your face. So thank you so
Yes.
much, beautiful people. Thank you for supporting Archana and me over this whole journey of the last 1 month. And we'll continue. We will try our best to get more to you. And no promises, nothing, no commitment. That is where we had decided. So I'm really in gratitude to Archana and to everybody who supported us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.